Well, hello, Matt.
Hey, Rick.
How are you, buddy?
Great, man.
Hey, cheers.
Just happy to be here with you on
cheers.
your birthday podcast.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah, there's just all kinds of stuff. Was it birthday podcast?
Well, it's the 1 year birthday of coronavirus. So
yeah,
happy birthday, bitch. You've been a pleasure to hang out with for a year. It's my personal birthday, and I'm old as dirt. So there's that. So I'm just happy to be upright and breathing, to be here with you today. And it's our 29. We're going into year 29 as a gym also. So all three birthdays, Corona, the gym, and this old fart over here.
Yeah. And for those you can't see us, we're actually sipping on some whiskey.
Yeah, today Matt was nice enough to buy me some Woodford Preserve, which I love. And we're also drinking some Basil Hayden's today. Got some homemade donuts. We might do some munching in the podcast. But today, you guys, we're going to talk about, since I've been in business for 1,000,001 years, we're going to talk about the top 10 things, or just, I say the top 10, just 10 lessons that I've learned for being in business for.
You've almost been in business for as long as I've been alive.
Hey, listen, anytime there's whiskey involved, there might be some swearing. So, Matt, I would like to say respectfully, go fuck yourself. But yeah, you're right, dude. You were just a twinkle in your pappy's eye when I was getting this place open. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I'm filling up for you. No, you're good. You're nursing that thing. That's why you got to pick up the kids. Holy smokes.
I haven't even started and he's refilling, guys.
I know. This is bad when you get older, man. It's depressing. Got to drink it away.
It's depressing.
I was at the gym this morning and I was fired up, right? It's your birthday. So I'm like, I'm going to smoke this workout. So I started out with weighted pull-ups. So I hung a 50 off my waist and I'm pretty heavy right now. I'm like 225. So I'm like, this will be good. First rep. And I've never done this before. I didn't even know how this was possible. I strained a lat.
Nice.
So I'm like, man down. Can't even scratch my ass or move my arm over my head right now.
That's why you're drinking whiskey.
That's why I'm drinking whiskey, because it sucks, because I didn't even get my first exercise in today.
You should do a proper dynamic warm up, Rick.
Oh God, here we go. Already did all that. Matt, you tell me what to do. I just do it, bro. It's your fault. You probably programmed that shit for me on purpose. All right. Do you want to start digging into this top 10 or what? Let's do it.
Yeah. So, this is top 10 things kind of Rick has learned through the years. So we're going to start number 1, the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah. What you want to know, Matt?
What the heck does that even mean, man?
This is from Malcolm Gladwell's book called Outliers, which I liked a lot of his books. If you haven't read any of his stuff, I'd highly suggest it to anybody listening. Tipping Point was great. Great marketing book. I loved Outliers because basically the premise of the book is they're trying to explain why the most successful people are the most successful in their field or whatever they do, right? And one of the theories that he came up with in the book was something he called the 10,000 hour rule, which meant that to be really good at something, anything, free throws, violin, piano, shooting a bow and arrow, whatever these things are, right? Archery, I should say. You had to put in your time, right? Yeah. You had to practice your craft to get good at it. Mm-hmm. And the number that he came up with across the board, that was sort of this, use tipping point, sort of a tipping point for skill acquisition, when you could say okay, I'm an expert, 10,000 hours. And that was the rule he came up with. So if I look at that through the lens of fitness, we work with a lot of young folks and trainers, and we do internships and things like that. And there's a lot of folks that want to come in and they want to go from 0 to manager or 0 to expert trainer in 6 months, right? And I don't know what that is. A lot of people blame it on society. Every kid now is pampered and, they're all told that they're amazing at everything. And so, of course, they think they can be the CEO. But I don't think that's true necessarily. I think it's a little bit, I think everyone does it. I just think it's maturity, right?
Sure.
And I think the one advantage of getting old as dirt is that you can look at things, in retrospect and say oh, okay, cool. Here's something I've observed. And I would say that 10,000 hour rule, at least for being a coach and even as a business owner, it's true. So, anything that you want to do, right? If you want to be a great public speaker, you don't do it overnight, right? You go and you speak, join Toastmasters and start speaking. If you want to be a great content provider, well, your content's going to suck for years probably, right? Until if you look at podcasts as an example, like Joe Rogan's podcast, he didn't start really hitting it big until 3 or 4 years ago. He
has tons of years of this.
I know. He started when I was like with him and a laptop, and they would just like smoke weed and tell jokes, and then it turned into what it turned into now.
Right.
He had no idea it was going to do that. But I mean, if you look at this 10,000 hour rule, it was years and years of time put in to get better at literally having a conversation. Right. So I think it's an important rule. I think it does hold true. So I think if you're a young trainer or coach or business owner, like just put your time in. Don't be impatient. Like it's going to take some time, right?
Yeah. It's tough for people to, take in because it's like, the society of see everybody out there, social media, everybody's got this, that, and the other, and they just want to get there.
Right. How can I get there?
Yeah. I mean, you probably look back and you probably appreciate the time you put in the trenches and what you learned. And
yeah. I mean, how many times have you had a tough time in your life? Like I'll use the lens of like motorcycle. Like I like adventure travel on motorcycle, right? So I'm going to go out and do a week in the mountains of Colorado. I'm going to camp out every night. I come back. If every day was perfect and every day was smooth and there was no bad weather and everything, you would only remember certain things, right? But what I always end up remembering are the times when we got snowed in. I got a terrible mechanical breakdown in the middle of the wilderness and I had to like bivouac on the side of the road and, eat some disgusting food or not eat at all. And, those are the things that stick with you, right? And so I think you would be crazy to wish that away. And a shortcut is one thing, but there's almost no way to get there without some scars and some and some battle wounds. Like that's what builds you into whatever it is that you want to be.
I mean, when you're talking to coaches or talking to other business owners and say they're brand new in whatever field they're in, how you telling them to stick it out and work that 10,000 hours? And
well, we tell people here, like, listen, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you down the road, but it all starts by doing an amazing job at whatever we put in front of you.
Right.
And so that's, I think, a different way of saying, like, I guess it would be a bit of a downer if you were like, hey, man, in 10 years, you might be something, but not until then, right? I mean, I wouldn't do it that way, but at the same time, it's like, look, you got to work really hard. You got to nail one thing before you can move on to the other thing. And if you try to shortcut it, you just too many holes in your game, right? You're like a house of cards. It's just you're not going to stand up. Plus you're not going to appreciate it anyway. Like if you just grab lightning, struck gold, landed into some great sweet position and you didn't earn it, you're not going to appreciate it.
Right.
Look at people that win the lottery. It ruins their friggin' life, right? Because they didn't earn it.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it.
That's why, that's, athletes, musicians, you talked about this, it's real easy to understand that 10,000 hours put in because it's like the harder you work, the better you're going to get. And you know that. I think in business, it's a little bit tougher to swallow that. It's like, we just cut a corner and make some more money, kind of thing.
Right. And that's okay. I mean, listen, like learning from like buying an Alloy franchise, self-plug in there. It's a little bit of a plug. Just saying. That's the subliminal message. Like if you play that backwards, it'll say buy franchise or you're a moron. But anyway, buy like that. Like that's a shortcut, right? But you still have to at some point you have to master something. Right? You have to be good at something. If you want to be good at anything, you're going to have to put your time in. Part of that is people don't like to suck. Like if you got an ego around anything in your life and you go to start something and you feel like you're going to be an instant success, you're going to be terrible at it and you're never going to stick to it because your expectations are out of line. Right. So expect to suck at it and know that you have to embrace that 10,000 hour rule. That might be 9,000. I mean, who knows? But
I was a trainer, started out at
tell your story. I mean, it's a perfect example of this actually.
But I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And clients didn't either, and did best I could. And then I, kept working, whether it's did my own research, education. Then I stumbled upon you and, Alloy, and it's literally just eye-opening, got in, worked my way up in here from just, trying to get as many clients as I can, working as many hours as I could, learning along the way, learning from others. And then just over time through hard work and helped me move up in the company. But I wouldn't do it any other way at this point. Hell, I wouldn't even know anything.
Right. I mean, how could you have like I've asked you this on several occasions, like, hey, did you ever think when you came here and you were working at a different, big box gym and all this was new that you would literally be creating those same programs for a couple thousand gyms worldwide? You'd be like, hell no.
No chance. Right? Yeah. Didn't even think I was going to get a job.
Well, how long have you been here now? Years, Wes?
This is 10.
Right. So 10 years in the trenches to get to where you are now, like head of programming, where you fully understand all the moving parts, right? And you can put programs together in a way that seems to you so simple. Like this is a friction that you and I always have where you're like, I don't know, I can just throw those together. And, you almost like poo-poo how good it is, like what you do, because it's just second nature. Right. It's just your style. You try to poor mouth yourself. But at the same and that's cool. But at the same time, it took 10 years, right? It really did. And so for somebody to step in and be like, oh, I want to do what Matt's doing, and they've been doing it a year, it's like, Probably not, right? Doesn't mean you're not talented.
Well, that's what goes, say, with that 10,000 hours rule is, go find you a place that you can put in the work that has great mentors or a mentor and just, learn from them.
Yeah, and if you find anybody worth their salt who's willing to tell you the truth, they'll tell you the same thing. Go find somebody who's done what it is that you want to do and ask them what's up.
I mean, did you have a mentor or did you just, in the trenches, just figured it out?
I did. I mean, I had a lot of people that kind of gave me a hand up along the way, like business coaches, and I don't know, man, they were from all over. Like my dad was a good mentor. He was the one that when we had a big hiccup in our business, I wanted to just be like, fitness isn't a business. Like, this is too hard. I should go do something else for a living. And I remember sitting down with him and being like, all right, I'm ready to come to work for you, because he owned his own business. And he was like, nah, I don't think so. And I remember being like so butthurt. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, listen, any problems that you have in your business right now, you're going to have in any other business. So you're better off just going fixing your business. And then if you sell it later and he basically was doing exactly what he should have done, right? Which is like, suck it up. These challenges aren't uncommon, right? Every business has them. So pull up your big boy pants.
Right. And we went through all of those challenges and now we're more equipped to handle what we have in front of us today.
Exactly. Thank you. If he had just, if he had been like, all right, well, I'll give you a job because, you're right. The world sucks. And,
So I should be thinking Pappy, not you.
That's right. Think Pappy. He'd have this bottle gone by now, by the way. He drinks right under the
Rookies.
table. Yeah, exactly. 10,000 hours in my ass, 100,000 hours. All right. What's number 2?
Cool. Number 2, everyone is happy in a box until you put windows in it.
Why do I feel like all of these are like country sayings, right?
Again, thanks, Pappy.
Yeah. Props to you, Pappy. Well, this goes back to what you were just talking about with the comparison trap, right? Mm-hmm. So there's an old, I don't know, fable maybe. I'm not really sure what the description of the story would be, but I've heard it told in a lot of different ways. And so here, I'll do my best. There's a Mexican fisherman and he lives with his family in a beach town in Mexico, right? He's got one boat. He takes a couple of charters out a month, makes enough money to buy, food, whatever, and support his family. And he's really happy and he's got a lot of free time so he can spend time with his wife and kids. And he's just pretty much got it made. Right. And he takes a charter out one day and it's a bunch of like high powered American businessmen. And one of the guys pulls him aside because he's really good at what he does. And by the way, he takes them out and he puts them on some amazing fish, right? It's like the best day of deep sea fishing these guys have ever had. And they're having a great time. And one guy pulls him aside. He's like, you know what, man, you're amazing at this. You really are. And he's like, you know what you should think about doing is you should pick up from like 2 charters a month to go to like 3 or 4, right? And then sock that money away and save up and buy another boat and then because he's got a lot of family involved in the business, get one of your family members. They take that boat out. They do the same thing. Then you could get a whole fleet of boats, You build up like 10, 12 boats just running charters all day, every day. And he describes like what the lifestyle would be like and, how hard he would have to work to do it. But wouldn't that be amazing? And the Mexican fisherman says, well, then what would I do? He's like, well, then you could just chill out all day, maybe take a couple of charters out a month, hang out with your family and, just have fun with it. And of course he's staring at him like, you realize that's exactly what I'm doing right now, right? And I feel that way. Now, mind you, everyone's always like, yeah, but he's got a bunch of money in the bank. But yeah, I get it. But if he's paying his bills and he's happy to go through all of that, which who knows what the opportunity cost of that would be as far as family and well-being and whatever. I'm not saying it would be bad, but if it was, it wouldn't be worth it, right? Because ultimately he would want to come back to exactly where he was. And I see that a lot of times. I get these young coaches that reach out and they're like, hey, I'm running this gym. Actually, I talked to a guy yesterday. His name's Randy. He's a buddy of mine. And I remember first meeting Randy, and he has this one little place in Sandy Springs, right? Charges like $50 a session. And he just has people come and drop in to his circuit whenever they want throughout the day. He's like, I'm here from 6 to noon every day. That's it. And he would squeeze like 40 people through. I mean, he was doing an amazing business, right? And hardly any overhead at all. Great personal relationships with clients, no employees, no nothing. And of course, he's knocking back like crazy money doing this. Of course, he reaches out to me because he's like, man, I just want to do something more. I think I want to get a bigger place and hire some coaches. And I'm thinking, why would you do that? I mean, he lives right down the street from his gym. He's got 6 boys. They're all homeschooled. So he like rides his bicycle to work, right? Rides his bicycle home, and he likes to race bikes. And I'm like, to me, outside looking in, especially when I look at all the other things that are going on in the industry, I'm like, this guy's got it made. But again, he looks around he sees people opening businesses, hiring employees, getting bigger, whatever. He's probably netting more money than any of those people. Mm-hmm. But yet when he puts windows on that box and takes a peek out at what everyone else is doing, he wants a piece of that also. Right?
It's perception of what everybody else is doing.
When I talked to him yesterday and he's like, damn it, why didn't you? I said, I tried to tell you, because now, COVID's hit and he's lost some coaches, and he's like, he's trying to maneuver back to his old space and go back to his old lifestyle. Because he liked it better. Because he's like, this is driving me nuts. Yeah. I'm like, I told you. And plus, you got to be, part of that is being true to who you are. That's really hard to do, right? Is to figure out, like, who is it that you are? Because if he was honest then, he's like, all right, I get to ride my bike to work. I'm done by noon every day, so I can do all my kids' sports in the afternoon. 5 boys has got you running, I'm sure, right? So just be honest with that. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it. FOMO is a real deal right now. I mean, that's literally a psychological issue for some people, because, whether it's Instagram or whatever, you just see, and you only see the tip of the iceberg, right? You only see the good, the best parts of what somebody has going. You don't see all the hard work or the sacrifices or the opportunity costs like we talked about. So it makes you think you want to do it.
Right.
But it's really hard. But I would just say, be really honest with yourself about who you are and what you want. There's absolutely no wrong answer, right?
I mean, have you had that ever happen? Have you been there? Yeah.
I think ultimately no, because every move I've made has been, we talked about this with imposter syndrome. It's been really uncomfortable, but I never got in that seat and thought, I wish I want to go back to what I was doing, right? Because I felt like I was making the right move.
I mean, with your personality, you definitely have to be moving forward anyway. So
yeah, I mean, you look at the Enneagram, right? Like that 8 has like forward momentum is a big deal. So but I can I've always appreciated someone who knows exactly who they are. They just do what's in the framework of who they are, and they aren't affected by any outside influences. And they tend to be the most balanced, happiest people.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, just talks we've had in the past, I'm pretty sure that, you would live pretty much the same as you live right now. You might just ride your motorcycle more.
I can't imagine retiring. That'd be a disaster, right?
Yeah,
I don't ever want to do that.
It's just, business wise, you have to keep moving forward, but you're very, you're the fisherman. You're totally happy with going home, being your family, go ride your motorcycle.
Yeah. Even if the business is different, I'm not motivated to do different things. It sounds silly. Like, I'm definitely motivated by money because that's how we keep score, and we're all competitive on this team, or you wouldn't fit in. But at the same time, it's not about like a different car or buying stuff. It's like, stuff doesn't mean crap, experiences maybe. Travel's fun. I do a lot of that. But yeah, you're right. So I would just say, listen, if you're in your box and you're super happy, don't even look out the window. Just keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing. And it's part of, maybe that 10,000 hour rule too. It's like, put that work in, right? Keep your head down. If you like what you're doing, just be happy with it. Right? It's a good thing to want more, but make sure the reason that you want more is because you want it, not because you're playing a comparison game with everyone else.
Yeah, which I think, like you said, it's probably worse now than it ever has been in history. Just based on the social media aspect of things, right?
Yeah, look at depression. Look at me. You saw the social dilemma. Look at all the depression for teenage girls and the comparison trap with like looks, and
that's awful, man.
You're basically looking at Instagram people that aren't even real people. You saw the thing with Joe Rogan where his daughter turned him into like a hot chick, right? She's like 10, and she took a picture of him, and in 5 minutes on an app, she had him turn into this hot chick. They even used that picture in a college class to talk about like social pressures. And
right. As a father of 3 daughters, I'd probably be happy if phones went away.
Yeah, forever. Man. I hear it. Well, it's something, I can't imagine. Like, my daughter's 21, so she was just on the front edge of that, and she's hardly ever on social media. She just doesn't care. And
your daughter's a baller.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate that. She's got a really healthy self-esteem, and so it doesn't bother her. But like, we've talked about it. We watched The Social Dilemma together, and she's like, it's so true. Girls are so mean, like on the internet. I'm like, man. So, but you got a good head on your shoulders. You'll coach them up right.
Yeah. Might be coming to your house, get some shotguns.
I got a lot of guns, leather-bound books as well. But the comparison trap, finding, like, being true to who you are, that's maybe the most important thing. There's an old adage that says, like, the 2 most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. And I think finding that why for you is important, and then just keep that as your true north, right? Just stay on that path. And like, for me, I enjoyed coaching and being out on the floor. And when I had young coaches come up and say, man, I want to do what you're doing. I'm like, do you really? Because I enjoyed the coaching part more than anything else I've done. And so it sounds silly, but in some ways I feel like I'm sacrificing what I like to do, which is get out in front of people and make them happy and put my hands on the fruits of what we do for the bigger picture. Like the greater good is to scale so that we can help more people. We can help more businesses and they can help the people that are in their businesses, right?
Right.
That's the key. But I'm doing 99% of the work is not as pleasurable as it was when I was just coming in the gym every day.
Right.
So careful what you wish for.
Okay, cool.
That makes sense?
Yeah, man. You ready for number 3?
Of course.
All right, number 3, hard conversations now or harder conversations later?
Man, that is so true. And this is just, again, looking back on some mistakes that I've made, which is, hard conversations are by definition very hard. But no, they're hard, right? Because you have to talk to someone, and I would say to do it immediately. So if you've got someone on your team or even someone in your family that you're cross with, or there's something that's not going right, like you're a good friend or a good boss or a good leader or a good mentor if you're able to have hard conversations. Mm-hmm. And there's so few people that are actually able to have hard conversations. And if you let things go, it will come out later, and it will be a much harder conversation because it'll come out as you'll be passive aggressive, you'll hold on to it, and then it'll come out, and the person you're talking to that had no clue that you were upset with them, whether it's through work or personal, is going to be like, you've been harboring that for 6 months. You got a list of things lined up that they've been doing wrong, and you never address any of them. And these are all things that when you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, sure. But I guarantee you everybody listening to this can think about situations that they have in their life. Absolutely. Where they're just like, I'll just let it go. But you either don't care or you're just being a wuss, period. Right. You're either being a wimp, you're just scared to have a hard conversation because you don't like confrontation, or you don't care. You just don't care either about the person or about the business or whatever, and you're just letting it go. And that's the only way to look at it. So, most CEOs you just get tired of saying the same shit over and over again. I mean, honestly, it's like if I have to tell that person one more time not to chew gum or to stand with their arms like this or to make those sales calls or to follow up with those leads or whatever that is, you just feel like you're going to light yourself on fire. But you know what? Like, they're not you. They didn't hear it the first time. They didn't hear it the 10th time. Right. You should really be titled Chief Reminding Officer, because that's pretty much what your job is to remind people why they're doing what they're doing, how to do it, what the metrics are. And if you can't do that and you can't hold people accountable through hard conversations and make them do it, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation not too long ago with a gym owner, and literally, she's the one in charge, right? The owner of the place. And she's just telling me about her coaches and them not doing this, that, and the other. And I'm just thinking, like, have you ever spoken to them about anything? And like, I doubt it. I think there's zero talk, zero conversation. And result is their business is just not doing that great.
Right. And so why would you speak to someone else if you think about like practically? I understand emotionally why this happens, but you're going to just talk to someone else about how hard it is. Why can't they change? Or why don't they do this? And why don't they listen? It's like, you're not fucking coaching them. Like, let's be honest here, right?
Right.
Like, look in the mirror and everything is your fault, period. Like, everything in your life is of your doing.
Yeah.
The sooner you get your head around that, the better off you're going to be.
And you read a quote like that the other day or something, right? This is no matter who wins the election, right? It's like, no matter who wins the election.
Yeah, don't worry, guys, because no matter who wins the election, 99% of your problems will still be your own fault.
Yeah.
But it's
that
true.
That was the best one ever.
Yeah, that was actually came from the guy who owns the jiu-jitsu gym down the street, Eddie Camden.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, man, he broke the internet today, because that is the best quote I've heard the whole time.
It is true, 100%.
Everybody's freaking out about which old white guy is going to get elected, and half you guys can't get out of your own way in the morning, can't get your socks on straight.
You ever felt, you've have many positions, right? You running the gym, running franchise. I mean, you have lots of different roles. Do you ever feel like maybe you did, or others that have fell in the trap, like you're kind of above having those conversations? It's almost a bother.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very pointed question. I feel like you know the answer, which is a bit offensive, but also very honest.
Hey, give me whiskey, man.
Yeah. Rick, do you ever feel like you're a slack motherfucker and you just don't talk to people like you should? You feel like you don't know what you're doing? As a matter of fact, Matt, yes, I do. It's funny you should ask, because I guess so. No, it's true. I mean, there's a million times when we'll use the gym here as an example. Like, when I'm traveling all over the world, I'm trying to build licensing, and I'm talking to all these gym owners and giving all this advice. And we do have a lot of evidence. We get to see what kind of models work where, right? Then I come back here and I don't even have my own house in order, right? And put it this way, I can recall a time when we were going to do some filming for Alloy licensing. I had to go to someone else's gym because they were running my play better than I was. So I went to their gym out of town to film what Alloy is and what it's about, because they were actually executing on Alloy better than we were. Well, whose fault is that? You're looking at him. Yeah. He's all like,
this is part of those 10,000 hours that we talked about first, though. I mean, you had to go through that to understand it. And now look where we are today. So,
yeah. But 100% I've been, a part of me giving a list of 10 things is that I've walked through all of these.
So, like the point of it is like, you've done them, you walked through it. There's people out there now that don't even realize that they're doing that.
Right.
They're just like, that somebody else ain't.
Well, hopefully this will help. I mean, really, hopefully it'll help.
Hopefully we're helping somebody today.
I'm helping myself. I'm feeling pretty good right now.
All right, cool. Do we have any more on that one? All right. Number 4, 99% of entrepreneurship is boring. I'm already starting to slur my words. Thank you,
Easy
Rick.
for you to say. Easy. I'm cutting you off. Damn. Yeah, it's true, man. Entrepreneurship is pretty boring, and it's not. It's depicted as super sexy, right? Like, go on the gram and check it out, and you'll see me stepping out of a Aston Martin onto my private jet. And it's actually just a movie set for TikTokers in LA that I rented for an hour. Just shoot up a dope ass video of how cool I am. But honestly, read the book Great by Choice by Jim Collins. In that book, he talks about, they compare big companies, right? And it doesn't matter, big, small, but they use big companies. So they've got more data. Companies that outperformed other companies 10x in a 20-year time period. So not a short time period, right? Guess what? None of them were the most innovative. None of them had the best marketing. None of them, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you know what they did? They got up every day and did what he called the 20-mile march. And that was based on a story from a race to the South Pole. And by the way, it was 2 guys, and the guy that won used a strategy called the 20-mile march, which was going to do 20 miles no matter if times are really terrible, meaning there's a storm that day and it's iced over and it's barely passable. We're still going to do 20 miles. And if the weather is amazing and it's sunny and clear, we're only going to do 20 miles because it's going to conserve our energy for the next day, because it might be hard the next day, right? And the other guy was just like, surge when get when the getting's good and hole up when it's not, right? And he was beaten to the South Pole by Amundsen, and then he died on the way back. And so just from this exhaustion from the surge and rest technique. But he used that story to parallel that with these 10X businesses, because all they did was the boring work every day. And they did it like the commitment to be great at things that are just boring. And it goes back to what we talked about before. What's the CEO's role? Remind people to do the basic things well.
Yeah, I don't even say boring. Boring's bad. I mean, it's just the small things.
Yeah, well, I don't find it boring because like the commitment to be excellent at the basics is what makes any championship organization, right? Look at like American football as an example, right? I mean, if you can't block the guy in front of you or tackle the ball, right? Forget about running a double reverse pass or a spread offense, or it's like if you can't do the basics, you can't do anything complex.
Right.
So the whole point is make sure that you're nailing the basics. And 99% of the time, Matt, when I look at anything in our business that we're not doing well, it isn't some convoluted formula or, reason for this and that. It's literally, we just aren't doing the basics right. So if we're sideways in the gym with our coaching, right, it's normally I go back to the 7 core tenets and we're not doing them. It's like, all right, so what's my job? Chief Reminding Officer. Guys, 7 core tenets. Don't forget, we're not doing the hello by name within 10 seconds consistently. We need to start nailing that, right? So, but I want people to understand that entrepreneurship is more about that and commitment to excellence of the basics than it is about, the sexy, IPO or the brand new,
gonna hit it big, baby.
The tech idea.
Want some money.
It happens, it does happen, but those things are fleeting at best.
Yeah, I mean, the percentage of those happening are like very rare and how long do they last?
And was it like a guy Kawasaki that we were talking about, right, who did the speech, and the number one thing that he accredited, he has a million great business ideas, and the only ones that hit had more to do with like 70% timing, I think. Yeah. And he also admitted that the timing wasn't something that anybody planned. It was like he didn't know the timing. It just so happened that it happened to be a good time. So I will say that if you just commit to doing the basics well and you are solving a problem for people, right, which is how you build a business, then you're going to be just fine. But the day in, day out work, you only see the tip of that iceberg. You don't see all the bullshit that goes into grinding it out. And I'm not saying it's not fun. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy that grind every day. Like, that's the challenge, especially for a scatterbrained person like me who likes to come up with new stuff all the time. It's like, well, you know what? That's not going to move the needle. You're going to have to dig in and do the basics,
it's
right?
different for everybody, whatever role you're in, right? So, you know, as CEO, you have your own kind of grind. You got to make sure you stay on top of people. You're checking in, make sure things well. And then on their end, you know, say coaching wise, are you doing the things you're supposed to do every single day? You know, it works together. So, yeah,
true. But I would just say for, you know, don't believe the hype. Like, it's hard work and most of it is pretty boring, but you have to learn to embrace that and actually enjoy that.
Well, I want to do it. Just not a get it and forget it kind of thing.
Yeah. Did you say hit it and forget it? That's a different.
No, I didn't, but
I thought you said that. All right. That's good. He did not say that, to go on record, Mallory. Anyway.
Oh God.
Yes, exactly.
You're bringing my wife into this now.
I am. She'll straighten you out.
We're not even halfway through, guys.
It's going to take a minute. Brace yourselves, folks. I hope you had a long drive to work today.
All right. So get over the boring stuff, get it done. 99% of the time, everything is boring. Anything else?
No, Matt, you just summed it up. Thanks.
Boom,
Thanks
right
for
there.
making it seem so easy.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right, number 5. I'm going with it. You've cursed 19 times today, and you told me not to say this. Fuck your feelings.
Ooh. Yeah, so we don't usually swear on the podcast today, but since it's my birthday and I do kind of swear in private sometimes, we're going to let it fly. So I like that.
And you swear it already, like, do you don't remember?
No, I don't.
Pretty sure you called me an MF-er.
Lose my mic. All right, so yeah, listen, screw your feelings, fuck your feelings, whatever you want to say. What I mean by that is this: like, people are way too in their feels, especially right now when you look at the political climate and how things are going. Like, people feel a certain way about something, right? Mm-hmm. And a feeling is a natural human phenomenon. It is. Like, fear is good for you, right? Because it makes you run fast and jump high, get out of the way, and like avoid danger, like stranger danger, that kind of thing. But also, you have to understand that your feelings aren't necessarily the reality, right? Just because something feels bad doesn't mean that it's inherently bad. Maybe it's your take on it. Maybe it's your lens on things. Maybe it was your upbringing, whatever that is, right? And so if you're going to be successful long-term, certainly in business, you have to learn to disassociate your feelings from your reality. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, like, if something makes you angry or something makes you sad or something makes you fearful, it doesn't mean that it's actually sad, right? Or that actually is bad, that should make you angry, or it actually is something that should be fearful, right? And I think somebody else would look at things completely different. The problem that I see is when people take their feelings to heart, or maybe they have feelings about their feelings. I've heard these called like meta feelings, right? Where, like, okay, my business is doing good during Corona. I've heard this from people. Yeah, we're doing pretty good, man. But I almost don't even want to say it because I feel kind of bad about it. I'm like, why would you feel bad about that? Like, why would you feel bad about doing good? It's like, okay, I can feel bad about feeling good. I can feel bad about feeling bad. Like, oh, I feel bad that, like, we had to let a guy go recently. I love that guy, right? Well, we had to let him go. That felt bad. But it's okay. Like, of course it felt bad. Like, I should expect it to feel bad. It doesn't mean that it didn't need to happen, right?
Right.
But at the same time, of course it feels bad. And the problem is when you expect everything to feel good all the time, you're really setting yourself up for failure because not everything feels good. It just doesn't. Some things in life are going to feel shitty and they're going to feel bad and they're going to make you sad or angry or, whatever that is, right? But at the same time, it's okay as long as you don't let those become your reality. Like, we have a core value that says bring your A game every day. And that's not only for our customers, but that's for the team around you as well. So we care, we're empathetic, but at the same time, you got to leave as much of your shit at the door as you can. And if you can do that, if you can disassociate how you feel about a situation from the reality of that situation. I mean, let's look at politics. For God's sakes, we're losing our minds right now, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, if I've literally seen like relatives of mine post, like, I can't believe that 48% of the country doesn't think da 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 da. And what you're basically saying is, I can't believe that half the people in this world don't agree, or in this country don't agree with me.
Right.
It's like, do you think that's a rational feeling? And there's like anger about that. I'm like, you're serious?
Bringing that into their business.
Seriously angry about that, right? That someone doesn't agree with you. Right. Like, we're all built differently. We all have different life experiences. We all have different lenses, right? And I don't care what those are or how you get here. I haven't seen anybody be mildly successful that couldn't put aside feelings, right? Not ignore them, right? You can't bury them. It's okay to sit with them and recognize them because you're really unhealthy. Have you ever met that always optimistic person, right? It's always like, hey man, how's it going? You're like, well, who are you trying to convince, bro? You or me, right? Like be a regular person every now and then, right? Right. All rah and upbeat with no negative. I call bullshit on that, right? That means you're hiding from reality, essentially.
It's just a time and place for those things. And what you're saying.
It's not all the time though. It's not realistic.
Right. You can show emotion, but it has to be in the right aspect. And we're talking about business. And I look at it a lot from like a leader standpoint. I mean, you look at we'll talk about, football already, but look at Belichick and Saban. It's like they're stoic all the time. They never show emotion. The reason they do that is because they don't want their players going up and down on that roller coaster. They want to keep them focused and consistent. And the same thing with your team. Same thing with our coaches to our clients, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's hard. Like I get it, but it's a sign of maturity, right? It's a sign that you understand how things work. It's a sign that you're in sort of in charge or on top of your own self and your own feelings, right? Mm-hmm. And that you can have a feeling, recognize that like, wow, this really sucks. Like that's kind of makes me angry, to be honest. But you know what? That's okay. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to keep plowing forward, right? Because I've got an objective in front of me. And while I know I feel this way, that may not be my reality.
Yeah. I mean, the politics one is definitely one, everybody's been losing their minds, rightfully so. In our industry, gyms have been just getting hammered, but coming out and hammering whatever side that you want, guess what? You're still pissing off some clients that you could have down the road just based on who they voted for. So maybe you shouldn't do that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Can you not put your political leanings aside during a time when you're supposed to be making money?
Right.
Right? Like what's your business there to do? Exclude half the population that doesn't agree with your political leanings? Like you're a dumbass, right?
Right.
So that's what I mean. Like, can you not separate your feelings, right? Or that's like a trainer that can't separate their feelings about certain exercises, or they get married to kettlebells or powerlifting or bodybuilding, and then everybody under their charge is getting the same, sort of workout. It's like, God, I don't know, but it takes a certain level of maturity, right, to be able to do that. And I think it's a key skill for anybody that wants to move anywhere in their life.
Absolutely. Cool. Any more?
No, man, that's it.
Get into your feelings? You want to spill anything?
I'm going to get into some of these.
It's going to get a birthday donut.
Get into these homemade donuts right now. That's what I'm going to get into. Do you want one of these bad boys?
I'm good.
All right. Ask away, Maddie.
All right. Number 6, guys. We are made it past the halfway point. Time and attention are more valuable than money.
Is that true? I have a mouthful of donut.
But is that true? I mean, you tell me there, guy. I mean, what do you got? I mean, this is 10 things Rick's learned.
Look. Yes, that would be the simple answer. And here's why. In today's age, man, whether it's, it is digital, right? Whether it's social media, whatever that may be, attention is a really, really valuable skill, if you will, right? Commodity, whatever you want to call it. If you can focus on one thing for an extended period of time, you're probably going to win, because there's not a lot of people can do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried to read a book recently? Like, can you read an article that's more than 3 pages long?
It's hard.
It's very hard. And we've been trained in a lot of ways, certainly by digital platforms, to consume information fast. And they're using brain science and addiction, right? The parts of the brain that would mimic cocaine addiction or slot machine addiction, those kind of things, colors, right? Blips, like buttons, all these things, right? Again, watch Social Dilemma or any of these programs that are about this today. Read books about it. And you'll learn that, like, we're being literally rewired. Like, we have these lizard primate brains that just can barely keep up. We're still trying to like feed ourselves, right? Upright and breathing, procreate. Like that's our main needs. And yet we're being overwhelmed by these like algorithms and these, artificial intelligence. And we're over here like, and on the other side of the screen are, the smartest scientists and algorithms that think 6 times faster than we do. So if you can master, first of all, your time, right? Because how much does time suck is it? I mean, set the friggin' moments on your phone and take an honest look at how much time you spend on social media.
Yeah. So
or anything on your phone.
Got some more good tips? I mean, setting actual timers, seeing.
Well, I've turned all alerts off of my phone completely. And if I'm
sitting, never respond to me.
That's right. Well, it's not that for you actually. But yeah, I mean, turn all your alerts off on your phone. If you're going to do something, turn alerts off on your computer. Listen, email, social media, all those things are the same, right? I mean, I even know people that will work on a computer that's not hooked to the internet to if there are writers or things like that, right? Because it's so hard in today's society. Yeah. But certainly if you can turn off all audio and visual cues, right? Little things that pop up on your phone, little dings here and there. All those are built to have you respond physiologically in a certain way. So shut all that shit off. And if you can just focus, right? You're going to be way more powerful than most. And I would say that literally it's an attention economy, meaning the digital platforms, whether it's Google, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, they're monetizing your attention. I mean, literally, and it's the 5 big companies, right? Modern monopolies, like we talked about. We both read the book.
Do you like set a schedule? I mean, what do you do?
I mean, to go in and check on those things?
Well, just to make sure you don't, do things you get outside of your, time allowance.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would recommend. Like set some time, give yourself, you can actually set, I mean, I use iPhone, but you probably can do it on an Android too. Set up time limits on each platform, right? So if you're like, hey, like I'm a social influencer, so I only do Instagram. It's like, great, set an hour a day, right? So you go on there in the morning, make whatever fancy post you want, take a picture of your ass or you having protein or whatever you're trying to monetize.
Picture of your ass.
Did I say that out loud? And then post that, right? And then go back to it later. You don't have to stay completely plugged in all the time. And most people aren't. I mean, let's face it, most people aren't really monetizing their digital platforms in that way. They're not social influencers, right? And they're not doing it in a big way. So if you're not, what are you doing? Like, get off of that stuff and do something meaningful. And it's so hard to do that based on how scientific these platforms are and how hard they work to get your attention.
Right.
To have that skill set in this day and age, well, it's like a superpower.
We talked about this before. What's scary with all that is you're like, say I have young kids that, 8-year-old, 6-year-old, 3-year-old, but they see that already. They see you on the phone. They see you doing things. So that's already ingrained with them. They just want to do it. They want to look. Well,
you gotta quit doing that then, right? Don't you think?
I know we talk, but
I know.
I ain't saying I'm perfect, man. It's hard.
Well, okay. So like, how do you feel when you're watching TV with your wife and then one of you guys gets on your phone? Like, how do you think the other person feels?
Yeah, you just like, what the hell?
Yeah. Are you hanging out or not? Like, we're trying to share this experience of watching a movie and you're on your fucking phone. Right. Like, what the hell?
It used to be just the TV. Like, we're trying to have a conversation. You're watching TV. Now it's like we're watching TV and you're doing something else.
It's offensive. I'm watching a dumb show about guys shooting each other. I want my wife to participate in that, right? Come on, babe. Well, we just talked about this the other day because she'll I mean, in her defense, I'll be watching something she doesn't like, and then she'll start doing like a crossword puzzle or she'll do like solitaire or she'll start playing a game on her phone. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, are we sharing this experience or not? And she'll be like, oh, sorry. But she'll be like, well, no. She's like, this is some bullshit. So I'll have to put something on that we both like. But once I get to that, like, we're good. But we've talked about it. It's like if I had a buddy over and we were watching a movie together and he was on his phone the whole time, I'd be like, what the fuck are you even doing here? Go home. Like, This is just irritating me, right? So, I mean, that's just the social aspect. But think about that through the lens of business. I mean, how many times you had we don't do it here. Like, we're great. Like, if we have a business meeting, no one's got their phone out, like tapping away. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, you said it was, I think it was, you told me, it was like, just even having your phone on the table is just like, it's a distraction just for being there. Not even doing anything, just sitting right there. Yours.
No, I usually don't do that. I just pull it out of my pocket because it was uncomfortable because my skinny pants were pinching my nads. But there's not a lot of space in there, Matt, in that area. But anyway, let's move on from that one. But yeah, time and attention, more valuable than money, guarantee you. So if you can, people say time is money. I would say in this day and age, attention is money.
All right. Moving into the home stretch, number 7, get a dog.
Yeah, I think it's a great, it's a great reflection of you as a leader and as a person.
Do you know how many dogs I have?
I didn't want to go here because I'm feeling your dogs are a pain in the ass, and this might make you feel bad about yourself.
They're not bad.
They're not?
No.
Do you have 7 pugs?
7 dogs.
Are they all handicapped?
5 pugs. Well, some of them are handicapped. Those are easy to take care of. They don't really move.
We're pulling little carriages around, and they're all like
we got a couple dogs on like hospice is what they call it.
What's that?
It's like foster care hospice? Them. Yeah. They're just going to basically die in my house. But yeah.
God.
Wife's got a big heart, man.
You know what? That's actually super cool. Like, I always think it tugs at your heartstrings when someone adopts like an old dog. So I'm like, what do you want to be living an old dog living in a shelter. How shitty is that? Some family dropped them off because they couldn't take care of them.
Don't worry, they're at my house.
I know where to take them. Anyone listening, please drop them off to Matt Helland. I'll give you the address in the show notes. But here's what I like about dogs. And I say this because we got a dog a couple of years ago, and we started training the dog, right? Because I didn't like the way it was behaving. Like, you let it out back, it starts barking. I'm like, I don't want my dog to bark. It's irritating. Like, if I was the neighbor's dog, or if I was the neighbor's, I wouldn't want my dog to bark. So it's like, all right, well, don't bark. And then if I'm out on a walk, I don't want my dog to be an asshole, right? I don't want him to be like pulling on the leash while I'm walking him. Like, I don't like that. It takes away from my, from me, right? So we hire this trainer, and he gives you this like a massive amount of homework, right? So it's like, okay, great. Here's what you have to do. And it's like shit. Like, well, you got to sit your dog in a seated position, and it's got to sit there for 10 minutes. You just got to stand there next to it. I'm like, God, this is terrible. Like, I ain't time for this shit, right? Talk about attention deficit disorder. It's like, but at the same time, like, what it will show you, what the dog will reflect back to you is how well sorted that you are. And I swear to God, it is an amazing lens on leadership. If you can't lead a dog, right, and get a dog to do what you want, because dogs only want to please you at the end of the day, if you give them guardrails and framework and expectations, and you're consistent, right? All the things that would make you a good leader for people make you a good leader for dogs. So the reason I like getting a dog is because the dog reflects back to me how well I'm doing. It has nothing to do with them. Unlike a person, right? A dog is really obvious. And so if you have a dog that acts like a jerk, that doesn't listen to you, do you think it's the dog's fault? The answer is no, it's your fault. You just haven't put in the work, right, to get the dog to the place where they're supposed to be. I mean, I was hiking, a buddy, when John Farkas was in town, my buddy, we were on a hike, and a lady came by, and she had two big dogs, and the hiking trail's relatively narrow. So of course, we move over to the side, and I sit my dog, just sits down. Her dogs are going ballistic, right? Well, they're so big, and they've got these like chest harnesses on, which makes them like sled dogs essentially. They're like pulling her, and she can't hold them. So her feet are literally sliding, and they're getting closer to my dog. And I'm like, and these dogs are like fired up, right? They're like ready to kill a dog. And there's like 1 million dogs on this trail. I'm like, what is this lady thinking, right? And she's like, oh my God, my dog is getting. It's like that thing the whole time. I'm like, I don't even care about the dogs. I just want to slap this poor lady and be like, get your shit together. Like, don't bring your dumbass dogs out here, and be a better leader. Come on, like, you're better than that. Because it's a reflection on her. Like, she's got these crappy dogs out here. They're losing their mind. She made a choice to bring them out there to fuck up everybody else's day, and she can't control them. It's irritating as crap.
This is a dog walk with Rick.
We'll take a nice stroll around the lake today with my dog. Great. We're going to get in 3 fights with every other owner. We're going to act really snooty, and we're going to give them a whole business lesson. No, it's not like
You're
that.
You're a piece of shit. Your dog barked to me.
Yeah. That was basically it. So I think I said something along those lines, actually. All kidding aside, I'm pretty sure I said something exactly like that to her. WTF, fix your dogs. You're a loser. But no, I don't, again, not to be too judgy, but at the same time, it is a good reflection. Dogs they want to please you. They want to do whatever it is that pleases you. So if you got a shitty dog, you're probably a shitty leader. So I'm going to leave it at that. So if you got a shitty dog, no offense, but you better get your personal affairs in order.
All right, we're moving on. Number 8, it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, this is a big one. Again, we go back to our current political climate. It's like, you cannot be wrong, right? No. And if you are, you can't admit
I'm right
to
and you're
it.
wrong.
Right. And I love it when I'm wrong. Like, if you're genuinely curious, and I think it's a sign of, I think I've read that it's a sign of intelligence if you're willing to admit when you're wrong.
Right.
So I'm not married to any ideas. I'm not set in stone about the way I think. Like, if I said, hey, I think we should do this and this is right, and someone came along and presented information to me to the contrary that was compelling, I would listen to that information, and I would be the first one to be like, whoa, we were way off on that, right? And I would change my mind. And so what's funny, I read an interesting quote about it. I don't know who the quote was from. I always do this, but it was something along those lines. Is like, the problem that we have is like, people that are not smart are so convinced that they can't be wrong. And people that are really smart are always convinced that they could be wrong. And that is our problem right now, right? Meaning, like, if you have any smidge of intelligence or humility about you, you have to be able to admit that if new information was presented to the contrary to what you know, because you only know what you know from your experiences, right, that you might be wrong. So I think in business, that's really important, right? Because if you will die on a certain hill about something, maybe it's the right hill, maybe it's not, right? And if it's not, man, you're screwing your whole organization and I've seen this before, and it really just boils down to ego.
I mean, to me, what it means is like it will paralyze people. They're afraid to be wrong when they won't take that shot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't thought of it that way. So what do you mean by that?
Well, it's like, you have different, alleys or different ways to do it, but you're so afraid that you're going to make the wrong decision that you won't actually make those steps or go in that direction.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, but I guess you're right. You get paralyzed, paralysis through analysis, or you just overthink
Which
it. But
entrepreneurship, you can't be that way.
No, and I mean, aren't mistakes exactly what you should be doing? Like, how do you grow without screwing it up? There's no possible way.
Right.
And screwing and accepting the fact that you're going to screw it up, and then responding to that by that. Again, it's not a travesty, right? You're going to make I've made a lot of big, swing and misses in my career, but all of them are learning experiences. And it's really cliche to say this, but like a mistake's not a mistake unless you didn't learn from it, right?
Well, you might not land on the right thing, right?
Yeah.
You might not have ended up in where we are today if you didn't actually take that shot.
And where we are today might not have been anywhere where I thought we would be, right? Because as things are, I didn't think we were going to have a bat virus come out of China and jump all over us. How did I know that somebody was going to eat a bat over there or whatever happened? We don't know. Right? I don't know.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's my birthday. But we didn't know that all that stuff was going to happen. And so, you make these decisions along the way and you end up where you're supposed to end up, and you got to just trust that process. But you should expect to make 1,000,001 mistakes, and you should really be open to new information that challenges your notion of why you're right, whether it's political, personal, and certainly in business. There's going to be things. There's things I looked at when Orange Theory first jumped off as an example. I'm like, it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. That's never going to work. Look at them now. They killed it. They're not killing it now because this virus has been tough on fitness for sure, especially cramming a lot of people into a small space type of brands. But they killed it, man, to their credit. So shame on me. I said it was a bad customer experience. Well, I probably went to a bad one, right? It's one club out of 1,000. So I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I don't have an ego around that. And I think that's an important skill for anybody moving forward. And it took me a while to get there. I used to die on hills, right? Yeah. Believe me. Yeah, I used to be that guy for sure. Like, nope, this is the only way it's going to be. Nope. And I've learned it's like, no, it's not. And you're probably going to learn a better way to do it.
Cool. All right. Last two. Number 9, if you can do it now.
Yeah, I think, the quote that comes to mind on this one is Thoreau. That sounds so learned, a learned man. It's true, though. Thoreau said, listen, it's one of my favorite quotes. Most men live lives of quiet desperation, right? It's like when someone tells you that they're going to do it or that they're planning on do it, they usually don't do it. I can remember being on trips out west. Like we would ride out west on our motorcycles. It's not like a big deal. It's like you just get on it and ride, right? You get out there, and I'm in Wyoming at some gas station in the middle of Yellowstone or something, and I've got a Georgia tag on my bike, and there's some guy who pulls up in a minivan with his family, and he's like, man, that's awesome. You drove all the way from Georgia? I'm like, yeah, man, it's cool. It's awesome. He's like, I'm going to do that, man. Someday right now I got kids and can't really get it done, but someday I'm going to get me a bike. I'm going to ride out here, And I'm like, good, man, you ought to do it. And then I turn around and I'm thinking that motherfucker's never going to do it, right? Because if you're going to do it, you would do it, right? By the way, I also had kids that same age and had a minivan at home also, right? So it's not like he couldn't do it. You just choose not to do it. And so as we've seen, certainly in times recently, like tomorrow's just not promised, man. You don't ever know. You could step off the curb and hit by a truck, and my wife had a weird stroke a few years ago, which was like literally being struck by lightning is how the neurologist explained it. We had no idea. The healthiest person, healthiest eater, fit, her.
Right.
Just squared away, no stress. She's got it figured out, right?
Right.
Has a stroke, a widowmaker of a stroke, and came out of it fine. But like there's just 1,000,001 stories like that. When you're 25, you're like, well, not me. Well, yeah, you. It can happen. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying just dive in head first without some thought, but at the same time, like if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? It's that if not now, when?
Right.
Kind of idea.
Goes back to that last one. Yeah.
Because I'll see people at trade shows, and they come to maybe a Perform Better summit, and they see me speak, and they're like, yeah, man, I'm getting ready to open my facility. The next time I talk to them, it's like, I was going to, but then I had this guy, and then he was going to help me out, and then we didn't decide to open it, but then I was going to open one next year, and I'm like, you're never going to open it.
What do you think that is? Fear?
I think so.
Afraid that they're going to fail?
yeah, maybe it goes back to, it's okay to be wrong. Like maybe it's fear of failure. Like I don't want to stick it out there because I don't want to fail. It's like, well, how else are you going to learn? Like there's no guarantees that you're going to make it. Right. And believe me, the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. And it goes the same thing. If you have an opportunity that pops up that you really want to do, like the only regrets I ever have are like, I might have a friend, like I have a friend that lives in Medellin, Colombia, who's like, hey, come down, we'll ride motorcycle. I was like, I was busy. I didn't go. Well, now he's moved. I'm like, damn. Like I could have gone out of Colombia and ridden motorcycle. It would have been amazing, right? It's like you really need to.
You couldn't have worn that Pablo shirt, by the way.
I could have worn. Yeah, that's true.
That
they don't like
that.
Bad
idea.
Every time I post that every year, I don't think I'm going to do that this year because I always post it every year and it's kind of funny. All my friends from Colombia, and I have friends that are literally from Medellin, are like, you bastard. I mean, he was a terrorist to them, right?
Yeah.
I know. Of course, I know it from the TV show where I'm like, oh, he's a baller. He's a good businessman.
No, he was still a terrorist in the TV show.
Murdering
he just liked him.
I don't know what it says about me, but I really like Narcos, my favorite series.
It was a great series.
It was. You run that big business like that. But I would just say for you guys, just historically speaking, like if you have the opportunity to do something, just do it. Right. I mean, life's pretty short, man. It goes by quick. And it's like, again, having lived over half of it already, it's like if you have an opportunity to do something, do it. Because you may never have that chance to do it again.
Cool. Well, can't get any more clear than that. All right. Number 10. You ready?
This is it. Drum roll.
Do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory, man. Do the right thing. And at the end of the day, like sometimes doing the right thing is a really, really hard thing to do. That's something where everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. But do you really, right? I mean, we've had to make some really hard decisions. I mean, our history here. It's like, we had a guy that worked here who I had been really good friends with. The guy was in my wedding, right? And our business kind of got into a spot where he had been a main role player here forever. The pay structure didn't work anymore. Had to change his pay, which flipped the friendship weird. And then it just got odd. Then you end up leaving, right? And you feel terrible about those things. You really do. It's like you don't sleep at night. You second guess all your decisions. You're just like, ugh. I mean, it's just like a gut punch, right? But at the same time, if you ask me, was it the right thing to do? The answer is yes. It was the right thing to do. Not only by me, but by that individual, right? To get out and go do whatever it is that you're meant to do, right? Been here too long. Same thing recently. We let go a really good guy. It's like, did I like doing it? No. Was it painful? Yes. Did I get flamed for it by clients? Yes. Rightly so? Maybe. I don't know. But at the end of the day, when I put my head on the pillow, do I feel like it was the right thing to do? 100%, right?
I mean, you're putting you out there and you're helping many, many other people, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not so much about that as it's like, I think, you get really worn down as an entrepreneur, right? Again, you go and see the tip of the iceberg, all the sexy stuff, right? But most of the work, it's boring work. It's hard work. You're making decisions that affect other people's lives. It's really hard to do. It really is. So, I'll just tell anybody that you're thinking about being an entrepreneur. It's not for wimps. It's not at all. But as long as your compass is good and as long as you can go to sleep at night and feel good about what you're doing, right? Unless you're some crazy narcissist who can justify like shitty behavior and doing people wrong, right? It's a good thing. So always do that. Sometimes it's going to be at the expense of your mental health, at least briefly. Sometimes at the expense of you financially. Sometimes it's, maybe you're making a business decision. Like I've made business decisions here. Like we had a proposed acquisition at one point, right? And it would have put a lot of money in my pocket at the time. But it came with an earnout, and I also considered everybody else on our team, right? It's like, well, what happens to Matt? What happens to Suzanne? What happens to Tony we had at the time? What happens to, Jared? Like what happens to the people on our team if we're acquired by this other company, right? And while I would have loved to grab that money and stick it in my pocket, and every other business advisor might have been like, hey, if you ever have any value in your business, you need to sell it, right? But I think at the end of the day, you have to do what's right based on what you feel is right? And not in some weird, twisted, justified way, but really when you're by yourself and it's quiet and you're going to bed at night, did you make the right decision, right? And sometimes it's aligned perfectly with like success and business, and sometimes it's not.
Right.
But all I would say is it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, you're going to get from point A to point B from the beginning to the end of your life, and you're going to feel a lot better if you made the right decisions along the way. Sometimes they're going to be easy and they're going to feel great. And oftentimes they're going to feel horrible and they're not going to feel good.
Yeah, tough decisions for sure.
Yeah. But if they're the right decisions, so what? It goes back to like, fuck your feelings. It's like, it doesn't matter how you feel. Nobody cares. You have a living, breathing entity that's a business that has people that rely on it, right? You have to protect that. And not at the expense of yourself and your family, but at the same time, like, you still have to protect it, right? In a rational way, if that makes sense. So it's bigger than just do the right thing. Like, of course, you're not going to steal money from the drawer or whatever. Can I tell a story about that, by the way?
Yeah, I don't even think I know this one.
You don't. I hope this joker is listening, actually. So it was a dude that used to work here, and you'll remember who it was, but I'm not going to name names, right? I said, man, we're getting gossipy now, aren't we? Look at us. We're going deep. We're going hard in the paint at the end. We had
a drawer.
Yeah. Where's the drawer? I didn't know there's a drawer. Matt's going to dig into the drawer. Was it me? How much money's in the drawer? So there's a dude that used to work here, right? And he came in as an intern from a local college that we're accredited intern provider for. And then we hired him because he was a really upbeat guy, right? A little odd, but really upbeat guy. And so he stayed on. And then lo and behold, there was a girl who worked here who was also awesome. Loved her. She was the best. She was having some marital problems. And so he's here as this young, in shape intern guy. And she's this, girl going through some troubles, and they stay after work and So a romantic relationship develops at the workplace. Go figure, right?
Sounds like a lot of gym owners' experiences.
Yeah, I've had plenty of those, but they were different. Like, we've literally had stories where there's like panties hanging off the exit sign, and some guys like screwing some penthouse model in the back office. Like, that's for another podcast. Like, we'll get it. We'll open that Woodford and talk about that next time. Anyway, so this guy, he ends up having an affair with this girl that works here, and it blows the whole thing up. He leaves, he goes and opens his own gym. It's just a bad scene all the way around, right? Just made some really bad decisions. He really did. And so about 3 or 4 years later, and I don't hold a grudge. I mean, shit, man, people, whatever, people are young, dumb. I get it. Whatever. I don't just move on. I don't have time for that shit. I'm moving forward. So, but this guy goes and he opens his own gym. So like 3 or 4 years later, I get this call from this guy, and he's like, hey man, can we go and have lunch? I was like, all right, sure. So we meet for lunch and we sit down, and apparently he had gone to some like self-help seminar here in Atlanta. And it must've been a little bit like based on the show, My Name is Earl, where he like tries to make right all the wrongs he did in his life. Right. So he's sitting down with me, and I'm thinking like, where's this going to go? And he says, listen, man, when I worked for you, there's a few things that happened that I'd like to just admit to now and see if I can clear the air. And I'm thinking, all right, cool. Because, he was sleeping with a married woman. So maybe it was that. Sleeping with a coworker that was married. It's going to be that, right? No, it wasn't that. He's like, yeah, listen, sometimes at the end of my shift at night, I would, I'd be hungry and I'd feel like I earned it. So I would just take a Cliff Bar. I wouldn't even pay for it. I would just take it and eat it. And I felt like, and he's like, the sad thing is? I was like, yeah, but no, go ahead, tell me. And he'd be like, well, I feel like I deserved it. I'd worked hard for that Cliff Bar, and I never paid for some of those. And, that still haunts me to today. And I'm thinking, really? Like,
what the hell is happening?
Yeah, what the hell? Where am I? Like, I'm being punked or something here? Like, where's the cameras? Where's Ashton Kutcher, or whoever? So he slides this book over to me, and it's sort of like The Power of Whatever. It's one of those like feel good books where you just think good shit and good things happen, like, whatever. So he slides the book over, and it's got like a $20 bill in it, right? So I'll open it up, and there's this 20. There's a placeholder. And he's like, so I just wanted to pay you back for all the Cliff Bars that I've eaten. And I just sit there, and I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to say to this kid? Right? Like, I want to help him, but at the same time,
only happens to Rick.
At the same time, this is the most ridiculous. Like, this is the worst thing that you think happened when you work for me is you stole a few Cliff Bars. Like, please, brother, you've been like sleeping with a married lady at my gym. Come on. Right? So I go, listen. So I think about it, take a deep breath. I'm like, all right, listen. I slide the book back over with the $20 bill. And I'm like, I tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do you a favor. I'm not going to accept your apology or your $20. You know what you're going to have to do? What a real man does. You're going to have to take all that pain and guilt, and you're going to have to shove it down and put it in that little box somewhere in your gut, right? Swallow that down and put it in there. And you're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life. And I hope it teaches you a lesson, because you're not getting off the hook with me, because that's the least of the things that you did. And I just got up and walked out. And I laughed so hard when I got to the parking lot. Not that I was like trying to be super mean to this guy, but I feel like I did him a favor. Like, come on, bro. Like, I'm not going to let you off the hook. I mean, stealing Cliff Bars, like, who cares? You ate a couple of Cliff Bars, like, big deal, right? I mean, the main thing was that you were doing this other thing that was like way more egregiously bad. And you can't slide me a book in a 20 spot and just have me clear this clean slate. I'm not going to make you feel better for the shit you fucked up. Like, you need to make you feel better. And the way you do that is you do what I just said. You shove it down deep and you be a friggin' man 11, about it.
Shove it down deep.
You swallow that guilt and pain and you live with it like the rest of us.
That would only happen to Rick, by the way. That
right.
Is
that shit happens to me. All that weird shit happens to me all the time. That's what you get from
entrepreneurship.
Right. It's just great, guys. Get your own business. It's amazing. Nah, man, but it's all good. So, Matt, that's my top 10. So appreciate you sharing a whiskey. I appreciate you, man, for the podcast.
Happy birthday. Happy anniversary. We got, many, many things. We're going to big
30 more years to go. We'll be saying we've been in it for that long, but that's a long time. And like a lot of our listeners, again, they weren't even born when we opened, but I feel like we're still relevant. We're still in the game. We're still plugging away. I hope this helps some of you guys. I know it got a little weird, but that was the whiskey talking.
Yeah. It's just, again, you go in, you learn. This is a shortcut to learn from somebody that's been through it. That's the whole point why we do this.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you guys. Listen, we'll catch you next week for a little bit more sanity and a little bit more in the weeds, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. We certainly did. Peace.
All right.
See ya.